Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we are going to be talking all about brushes because let's be honest, it's a little overwhelming. In front of me I have all sorts of brushes and combs and all this stuff, like how do you even pick what's best? So today, with our theme of loving our English Cocker Spaniels, we are going to be talking about selecting brushes for our English Cockers. This also applies to a lot of other drop-coated breeds like Setters, Spaniels, whatever we're looking at that has this coat type. So, there are a lot of options. But before we dive into all the details, let's just talk about two main types of brushes today. So we have our slicker brush and our pin brush. Now, I often refer to the different things as pins interchangeably. So if you hear me say pins, this is a pin brush, this is a slicker brush, but they both have these teeth kinds, pins. I call them pins. So as we're going forward, don't get confused. Pin brush, slicker brush, and who knows, I might mix them up. All right, so there are a lot of different kinds of brushes, and we need to figure out like what our goal is when we're brushing our dog. So if we're just like maintaining the coat, making sure it's tangle free, we might only need one brush. But if our dog's coat tangles more often with little mats, we might need a more dense face of our brush. Let me explain. So we have two Christensen brushes here. This, I believe, is the big K, the medium K, and this is the big G slicker brush. As you can see, the pins on this brush are very long, they're bent, and they're well spaced out. Whereas in our big G, we have lots of pins, also very long, but way more pins, not as farly spaced out. It also has a larger brush face. Those are just the two different sizes of the brushes. But we can see the big difference in these two brushes and what they could be used for. So this brush is really good at taking out a bunch of little tiny like pin mats, while this brush is a lot better at being a general brush, getting through a lot of coat, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And this is my favorite brush. I'll just say that. Okay, so in comparison, we have a Bass slicker brush, which you can see the face of this brush has pretty densely covered pins throughout. But look at that. Look at how short those pins are and the angle difference between them. So in comparison, we're looking at those length of pins. Like, that's crazy. So just to show you, these pins can only go in so much to cover so much ground in the coat, while these pins, it's in my ruler here, cover almost an inch of coat. So we can get a lot more bang for our brushing buck with a thickly coated dog and getting farther into the coat. So those are the three slicker brushes that I'm using as an example today. So they all have like different purposes. This one's great on like feet and stuff. Well, this is great on the feathering. Well, this is great to like demat little pin mats. Like, they all have their purpose. But if I had to choose just one to use, it would definitely be this one. This is the most universal in my opinion. My favorite brush. Now, moving on to our pin brushes. I have mostly Bass brushes here and one Christensen. So let's just start with our Bass Wet and Dry brush. This is an A9. Ooh, this is an A8. So it's just a size difference for the most part. And we can see that the pins on this brush are fairly long. I believe they're about 1.2 inches. Let's see. A little less, but pretty good. And what we would use this brush for is mostly if our dog was clean, if our dog was getting blow dried, this is a great brush to straighten out that coat, to help it be straighter as we're blow drying and really pick up a lot of coat at once to straighten it. So there's some technique in there involved, but that's great for like ringside stuff. And the most important thing to remember about a pin brush is to make sure your pin brush does not have any balls on the ends, okay? So here's an old pin brush that I found that does have balls on the end. We can see all the tiny little rounded tips that it has. And this looks more like a human hairbrush. It makes it really comfortable against our scalp. And you're probably like, well, why wouldn't I want to make it more comfortable for my dog with the rounded edges? Like, isn't this one more sharp? But in all reality, our scalps are pretty sensitive and our dog's skin is a lot thicker, a lot tougher, and this brush doesn't hurt at all. But the pin brush that has the rounded tips can actually hurt your dog more and just cause damage to the coat. And here is why. Those little rounded tips actually cause the hair, because your dog's hair is much shorter than our hair. This happens with our hair too, but just saying, those little rounded tips, the hair wraps around them, and you're actually more likely to pull out healthy hair that catch around those rounded tips. Whereas in this one, without rounded tips, it's just the straight pin. Any tangle or like curvature in the hair, it will just slide right out. That's why your slicker brush with a bent shaft is able to handle mats and tangles a little more easily than your pin brush. It's a little more effective in that way. But that's why you also want to avoid a brush with rounded tips, so that doesn't pull or yank any healthy hair and cause your dog any discomfort. So that's something to keep in mind with your pin brushes. There's a lot of variety for all of these brushes, lots of different companies and everything. You can probably see that I'm a little partial to Bass and Christensen. I love Bass brushes because they're just so pretty. Like, they're beautiful. The wood, it's so pretty. So, for an example, we have our A9, which I held up with our A8. We have our G35. This is a Christensen brush. In comparison, those pins are very long. So it just depends what our goals are, right? This is a Bass, let's see, Bass 16, and it has bamboo, which is a really great everyday brush. Red English cockers who have a little different hair type than maybe a blue roan or a black, these are really great with. It really comes down to what type of hair your dog has. Even the different colors tend to have like a little bit of a different texture, but then between different lines and genetics, their hair has all different types. So depends what our goals are within everything. If I had to recommend one thing that you would get to help you out, it would definitely be the medium or big K slicker from Christensen, along with a good comb. Once we brush out our dogs, we're able to go back in with that comb and really fine tune and check any details to make sure that we didn't miss any knots, tangles, or snarls, and just help our dogs be healthier and happier through their coat. So thank you guys so much for watching. This was a little crazy with so many options and choices, but between our slicker brush and pin brushes and combs, we have a lot of different options But just trying things out, seeing what works best for your dog, what's most comfortable in your hand, for your dog, everything is really important to finding out what works best. But in the end, make sure you keep in mind what your goals are and then select the right tool to achieve them. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I wish you the best of luck in your brushing and dog care journey.